Live from Dublin and around Ireland, theatre takes centre stage. Streaming live and focusing on the issues. The art, the craft, the makers. News, hot topics, and artist features. From theatremaker.ie. Tonight I'll first be speaking with the chair of the EPIC working group, Sophie Ridley, and chair of the Association of Irish Stage Technicians, Liam Fitzgerald. We'll be discussing the ways in which EPIC and AIST are working in tandem to support workers in live events and technical theatre. I'll then be joined by stage manager Fiona Keller, discussing the sustainability of the sector and the desire for representation and support, including how we move forward, creating a better and more sustainable sector for years to come. Lastly, I'll be with Eamonn Fox, freelance production manager and event controller. We'll speak about what he's discovered lately and the magic that keeps him coming back to the theatre. Also on tonight's show, Tom Creed, Emma O'Grady and Senator David Norris. I'm Amy Kidd. This is Stage Door Live for the 24th of June, 2020. Welcome back to Stage Door Live, episode 11. First things first, a big thank you to everyone who has joined our new Patreon community. Your support is invaluable, and of course we love connecting with our viewers, so do check out our Patreon and keep chatting to us on social media. We love hearing from you. It's been a very busy few weeks for news, and this week has been no different, so let's take a look at the headlines. Dublin's comedy scene is under scrutiny this week as Irish comedian Davy Riley has been accused of sexual abuse, misconduct and manipulation. An up-and-coming comedian shared her experience on Twitter, to which Riley responded saying, "That tweet is about me, and there's a huge amount of truth to it." His apology has received significant backlash from a number of high-profile members of the comedy sector, and a number of other women have come forward with their own stories of abuse. News coverage of these events continues to unfold, and we'll continue to keep you updated as more details emerge. But we would like to take a moment to say to everyone who has come forward, we see you and we believe you. In programming news, the Dublin Theatre Festival has announced that there will be a festival this year, albeit on a slightly smaller scale and with a reimagined programme. A statement on their website offers a message of hope, saying, "We believe that the values of imagination, civility and solidarity that we cherish in theatre will also be essential in renewing Irish society. We are determined to emerge from this time changed and stronger." Details of the lineup are expected to be announced sometime in August, and we look forward to seeing what this year's festival has in store. Musical theatre fans have something to look forward to as well, as the first official trailer for the recorded production of Hamilton was released earlier this week. Let's take a look at that.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Founded father without a father, got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter. To your union and the hope that you provide, may you
Emerald City.
This doesn't come without controversy, though. The show's creator and star, Lin-Manuel Miranda, confirmed that some of the show's language has been censored in order to comply with the Motion Picture Association of America's guidelines for a PG-13 rating. Miranda explained that he allowed the language to be censored so it would be accessible to a younger audience, and has reassured fans on Twitter that the film version is identical to the stage production, with the exception of the 2 words that have been edited. The show will be streaming on Disney Plus from next Friday, July 3rd. And in the world of funding, new reports from the COVID-19 Expert Advisory Group have been published. The report makes a number of recommendations to the new government, including the maintenance of current wage supports until the sector can operate at full capacity, and a capital funding scheme for arts buildings to adapt to social distancing requirements. New research published alongside the advisory group's report reveals negative and long-lasting impacts to the sector, stating that without additional financial support, the arts sector could contract by up to 42% in 2020, compared to an 11% decline for the wider economy, and that the arts sector could take until 2025 to recover from the current crisis. We'll share a link to the full findings and recommendations in our show description later tonight. The Arts Council announced on Monday that the Theatre and Dance Artist Residency Scheme has been reinstated. Initially, the scheme had been cancelled due to budgetary reasons in the context of COVID-19, but with a recent increase in funding from the government, the scheme will now be going ahead. Applications received from the previous deadline will be considered through the standard assessment process and will be required to provide revised plans and budgets in consideration of current public health guidelines. Decisions are expected to be announced by mid-July. And to wrap up tonight's news with a few opportunities. What a breath of fresh air. The New Theatre are accepting submissions for their New Writing Week, which takes place in early November. Scripts must be at least 50 minutes and the submission window will close at 5 p.m. on July 31st. The Dublin City Arts Office are currently conducting a survey exploring current and future artist workspace requirements in Dublin. Findings from that study will influence a design brief and assessment of the feasibility of sites across Dublin City for artist workspace development. Create Ireland and Sirius Arts Centre in Cove, County Cork, have announced a residency award to take place across both Sirius Arts Centre and the Guest House project in Cork City. Expressions of interest are welcomed from collaborative artists with a minority ethnic background and more broadly from a migrant background. The award seeks to support cultural diversity, collaborative and socially engaged artist practice in Ireland and is open to artists working across all art forms. Submission will close on the 20th of July. And finally, for our viewers in the North and the UK, the British Council's Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport are collating sector views and insights on the Creative Europe programme. The data collected will be used to inform the creation of a potential domestic alternative to the Creative Europe's culture sub-programme once the UK leaves the European Union. Insights can be shared by completing a survey before this Friday, June 26th. We'll share links to all of these opportunities in the show description later tonight. And before we welcome our first guests, a quick announcement coming to us from last minute from TD Richard Boyd Barrett. A meeting for artists and arts workers is taking place tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. This is in advance of a special COVID committee meeting in the Dáil, and the struggles faced by artists and arts workers will be discussed. We'll share a link in our show notes later where you can register to take part in the meeting. And that is it for the news. If you think we missed anything, please do send us your press releases and suggestions to news@theatremaker.ie or DM us on social media. If you're watching on Facebook, hit the follow button, give us a like, and take a moment to share this live feed with your friends and followers. right now. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and click the little bell to keep updated on our new and exclusive content. You can also hop on over to our new Patreon page where you can support us with a one-time or a monthly donation. Patreon.com/theatremakerie. Your support will help us grow and keep the conversation going. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube at theatremaker.ie. Catch our weekly blogs on our website, as well as links to our previous episodes and more. Watch this space. There's more exciting things on the way. Thank you for your support from our team at theatremaker.ie. This week we're focusing our discussions behind the scenes, or more appropriately on the arts workers and crew who make the magic happen in live events and theatre. While we celebrate a much needed funding addition by the Arts Council, we should not forget the workers who rely on the festival season to get through the year. I would be remiss if I didn't mention they are also the people who we rely on to get us through festival seasons year after year. For the unfunded live events sector, there seems to be no other option but to wait for the return of audiences. Without support, the island brand we see touted internationally could be irrevocably changed. My first guests tonight are Sophie Ridley and Liam Fitzgerald. Sophie is the chair of the Event Production Industry COVID-19 Working Group. She is an event controller and safety consultant providing event management and safety services to the entertainment industry. With nearly 40 years' experience behind her, she has worked on most of the major events in Ireland and with very many of the companies and crew this working group is proud to represent. Liam Fitzgerald is chair of the Association for Irish Stage Technicians, AIST, and a member of the EPIC working group. He is currently technical director at the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre. Liam has been working in the entertainment industry for over 25 years. Despite starting in sound, he has mostly worked in lighting and venue technical management. Hi, Liam and Sophie. Good evening. I'm just going to wait and see if you appear on the screen. Oh, yes. Hello. Good evening to you both. How are you both doing tonight?
Not too bad at all.
Not too bad. Sophie, yourself? Oh. Okay, we'll resolve that issue in a second. We're going to take a little look at an ad that EPIC is running right now, and we can figure out what's going on with Sophie's visual while we run that. So let's have a look.
We are people with families, with children, people with decades of highly specialised experience. We work long hours tirelessly because we love what we do. We believe we need art, we need entertainment. It's what makes us human. Our work is recognised worldwide for the quality of our writers, our performers and our design. There's often the impression that these things are thrown together, but the reality is that we are a highly trained, highly skilled task force. It's taken us decades to get where we are. Many of the teams I work with will be out of work for months, possibly years to come. We will lose the skill sets it has taken so many years to grow. We need to protect and retain these skills, and when the time finally comes to switch the lights back on, there'll be nobody there to do it.
Hi. So we're going to stick with you for a second, Liam, while we try and figure out
Absolutely. Yep.
problemo. Would you mind telling us a little bit about AIST and the goals for the organisation?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the goals for the two organizations are actually essentially aligned because we have been working so closely together since this has started. The AIST was an existing established organization, has been around for nearly 20 years. So we were able to get out of the blocks pretty quick on that. The EPIC group has been formed in response to this crisis, and as such then but our aims are aligned. So like primary aim, and the one that's really, really at the heart of our game, is the continuation of the COVID-19 payment and the wage subsidy allowance until the mass gathering and caps are lifted, and until the restrictions on the amount of people you can have indoors and outdoors are lifted through social distancing. We also have a number of SME supports that we're trying to push for, because the industry is largely made up of SMEs. There's very, very few big companies in Ireland. There are all companies that have 4, 6, 8 people involved. Now, they swell definitely with a lot of freelancers, but the vast majority in terms of are classed as SMEs. They're not classed as large business by any means. So our goals are to try and assist them. We also have some requests about VAT. We have some requests about... sorry, I'm just getting myself back. It's a bit difficult. Sorry. Yeah. So it's we've got a good list of requests, and some of them are state and some of them aren't. Our other requests involve non-state ones would involve some help from the banks. We've got a lot of SMEs in trouble at the moment. They've been completely without income since March. Even the events that they were running in March, they're clearly not going to get paid for, but they still have bank loans going out. They still have leases on equipment. They still have insurance. They still have warehouse rent. The staff have been helped by the government, and obviously we're very thankful as a sector for that. But we need that to continue, because most of the SMEs in this sector, in the live event sector, are not going to get the benefit of the theatres reopening towards the end of the year. They're going to be out until after Patrick's Day next year. And as such, then the other things that would be affecting the SMEs would be insurance and the rent of the private warehouses that they're in. Now, in fairness, there's landlords have to make a living too, so the rent assistance needs to come realistically from the state. The other requests we have would be around the removal of commercial rates for places of entertainment. You've got some very large buildings, such as theatres, event halls of various types, and music clubs that are all over the country, in every single county and town around the country, and they have been dark and without any work for months on end. So to expect, a warehouse that's empty and not being rented doesn't have to pay rates, but yet one that's full but has no income does. So this is one of the big problems. The VAT has also been a big oddity for going back decades. It's not just to do with COVID. The labour VAT in Ireland has been 23% on services. If you hire a sound company to come and do a show for you, they're charging you 23% VAT. Whereas labour for services should be at 13.5% VAT. That's what everybody else pays for every other service industry. But it's always been 23% for the entertainment sector. And there's VAT on tickets as well. And the VAT on tickets needs to be reduced. That's our other aim.
Mm-hmm. And you've talked about, hello, Sophie. Hi.
Hi. Sorry, connectivity in West Cork. I think every teenager in West Cork has suddenly gone online.
No, no, it does. We always, it's harder, the connection when people are not within Dublin, which is frustrating. But yes, I'll give you my next question then, Sophie. So Liam said that the goals are very aligned, but could I ask you, what's the benefit of the partnership of the two organisations?
I think the benefits work both ways. I mean, AIST, as Liam said, has been developed for 20 years. Liam has been involved in it for 10 years. We're very lucky to have Liam with us. He keeps us straight, keeps our committee working, defines what we say. When we say it in 200 words, he gets it down to 10. They've been going a long time, and they understand how to lobby, how to write submissions. Most of us are working people in the industry. We haven't been doing that sort of thing for long. We've just come together to deal with the COVID-19. AIST is fairly theatrical based. We are broader in as much as we represent the people and the companies from any sort of live event production, be it theatre, be it music, be it festivals, be it spectacles, be it national celebrations. So I think we complement each other very well.
And where does the work that you do fit in with the NCFA and the recent funding announcements?
I'll
Well,
leave
the
that one to Liam to
NCFA,
talk.
yeah,
Do you want to talk,
I'm
Liam?
probably more familiar with the idea of the NCFA than it's not a concept that the live event sector has come across or has interacted with a lot, simply because they're outside the remit of the arts the council. So funding is not something that they have a lot of experience of, in terms of they've never needed it. The live event sector is very buoyant, very prosperous, and in that sense, this is the whole, even the concept of having a representative group for them is a new idea. The NCFA and EPIC are very much like two sides of the same coin. We have we both need each other, insofar as the artists can't fully represent their desires without the technicians, and vice versa. The technicians aren't going to end up doing any work if there isn't a performance to present. So it's very much a case of two sides of the same coin. Now, the EPIC group, as Sophie said, is a little bit broader, insofar as they're concentrating on a lot more than just the funded sector. And, you know, not to belittle the funded sector, but it's only part of the entertainment industry as a whole. And they've been very fortunate lately with some of the announcements, but the unfunded sector are still waiting for to catch up in certain parts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Sophie, question.
Welcome.
Oh, there was something else there. Yeah, Sophie, a question for you.
Yeah, I'm here.
What have you learnt about the general public's perception of the arts sector, and specifically the people that kind of work behind the scenes? Do you feel like publicly they're very underappreciated?
I don't know if we're so underappreciated as people just don't know what we do.
Yeah.
You know, you see four people of a pop band on a stage in a stadium, and you think, well, there's four. They've probably got someone to do their hair and wardrobe, and yeah, there's a couple of people on the desk down there doing sound and lights. Whereas actually, those four people in Croke Park would probably have 150 people touring with them, and then another 150 from Dublin working locally on the show. I don't think people actually understand that. I also think people probably think the arts is a very narrow, cultured thing. You know, I saw comments when the Arts Council got the additional funding from people saying, "Oh, we don't need art. You know, that's all for Dublin 4 people." Love hate is part of the arts. Love hate is part of what people enjoy about the arts. You know, TV shows, films, music concerts. You know, people go to see their favourite band 11 times in a year. Live events is the Clonakilty County Show. It's threshings. It's steam rallies. It's 1916 celebrations. I don't think people quite understand how wide we are and how important we are to actually helping the country celebrate.
Yeah, you're totally right. And Liam, another question for you. What do you think the main worries would be if the sector is not given enough support through this time? What would the effect of that be?
Flat out skill retention. That's 100% our biggest issue. We have a great deal of very skilled, but unfortunately also very transferable people as a result of their skill set, who are able to work in many, many challenging environments. But it has taken at least 2 decades to build up the level and the competence of people inside the sector in this country, where we don't have to bring companies and large stage setups in from abroad in order to stage festivals and events in this country. We can do big events with multiple stages, self-contained within this country, with the skill set we have. The problem is, you take some of the very, very particular skills, like something like pyro, whereby you see pyrotechnics on stage. There's probably only about 4 small companies in the country, and 3 of them are basically made up of 1 person, and another one's made up of 2 people. So the amount of people, you lose one of those, that's a quarter of the suppliers gone in that sense. You look at it that way. The likelihood of us losing large amounts of skill and then taking decades to come back from it is very, very daunting for the industry at the moment. It also applies to the SMEs. We've got an awful lot of SMEs out there who are, hundreds of them all around the country, people with warehouses out the back of land in places in every county in the country. And they've got staging, decking, they've got marquee systems, they've got all sorts of stuff that's utilised throughout the year. And if one of those disappears, it's a big impact in the industry, because it's so well balanced at the moment and so well distributed throughout the entire country that losing something like that in a county means suddenly the costs of a medium-sized regional event that used to use a lot of local suppliers now can't. Suddenly you're bringing in suppliers from a good distance away, if not from abroad. Skill retention is definitely our biggest concern.
Yeah, and kind of on that, related to that, I'm going to give this one to Sophie again. Are there any wider reaching effects of not supporting these workers? Are there any businesses or companies or anything outside of the art sector that we wouldn't think would be affected but would be? Does it kind of go beyond even?
It does. I mean, the entertainment industry has what I think they call a
Yeah.
to see our beautiful scenery, to drink in our pubs and meet our lovely people, and to see our festivals and events. From sporting events where we provide all the live production and the TV production, to theatres, shows, traditional Irish, sessions, everything. We provide that. We're part of that whole tourism We Are Ireland brand.
Yeah.
And if I can also add, there's groups out there like the Red Cross, like the Order of Malta, like St. John's Ambulance, who benefit hugely because they get an awful lot of income from providing medical and first aid facilities to some of the large outdoor events. And without the events industry, the live events industry, in their annual turnover would be really, really hurt.
Yeah. It goes much further than people realise, I'm sure. So final question, which I'm going to start with you, Liam, and then Sophie, do add on to the same question or chip in. So along with hashtag We Are the Support Act, what else are EPIC and AIST working on at the moment or planning to work on in the future?
Yeah, the We Are Support Act campaign is definitely a big project for us. It's a fundraising campaign that we've extended around. It's wearethesupportact.com, and it allows people to donate to a welfare fund that's been generated for the most people in need, the real crisis points of our industry. There's also merchandise where you can buy some pretty good looking t-shirts and hoodies, if I do say so myself. Not that I designed them, in there, which show off the cancelled season on the back. But on top of that, there are other projects and other fundraising campaigns, and there's some pretty in-depth political lobbying going on at the moment. Sophie will tell you she's going to be in the Dáil next Tuesday, if all things go to plan, making a representation for the industry in front of the special committee of COVID response in there.
Oh, very good. Sophie, would you tell us a bit more about that and anything else you want to add?
Yes. first of all, just go back to We Are the Support Group. I would like to support Act. I would like to say a very big thank you to Brezzy, who has been our spokesman on that front and does great work for mental health in this country and for our particular industry as well. Yes, so there is our Octus committee, the Octus Special Committee on COVID-19, and they've been talking to different industries, and now it's our turn. So on behalf of live event production, we are going to put forward our plea and our argument for why we need help at the moment, why we need a bridge to get us back to where we were. Put through those wants that Liam mentioned, and answer any questions they have to ask. So that's hopefully if there is a government or if there isn't a government, it'll all depend on that.
Yeah. Well, best of luck with that. Do let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
We'd love to throw a little mention to that in a future show. Okay.
Great.
Anything else either of you would like to add?
Thank you for having us.
That's good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's great to hear about the work that you're doing. And have a lovely evening.
And you. Thank you
very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So now it's time to welcome a new face to Stage Door Live, though she isn't completely new. You actually had a chat with her before the show today. Kelly O'Doherty interviewed Pamela McQueen and did a special report on our new rehearsal room episode a few weeks ago on Stage Door Live, and now she is officially joining our team. Kelly is an Irish actress who holds an MA in Drama and Theatre Studies from UCC. She received a scholarship to complete a postgraduate diploma in acting from Mount View Academy of Theatre Arts in London. Upon graduating, she landed the title role in Druid's production of The Colleen Bawn. Kelly has recently returned to the industry after some maternity leave, and we are delighted to have her joining us. Welcome to the live show, Kelly.
Oh, thank you so much, Amy. I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of such a glorious team. So thank you for having me.
Thrilled to have you. So not only will you be joining us with weekly special reports and maybe getting out into some rehearsal rooms in the near future, but I heard that I can finally take a week off.
Well, you've been working very hard for many weeks now, and definitely you deserve a holiday, I think, here and there. So happy to take the reins while you take a rest. And I can only try to live up to your amazing poise live presenting. That's not scary at all.
Thank you. Yeah, so for anyone that missed what I meant there, I will not be hosting next week. It will be the lovely Kelly instead. You'll have a bit of a break from my face. So welcome to the team.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Amy.
You're going to introduce something else now, I believe?
Yes. Earlier this week, I had the chance to speak with Tom Creed, a member of the NCFA Steering Committee and Director of Theatre and Opera. We are delighted to have Tom Creed join us again, as he was a guest on our very first show. And since that time, only a matter of weeks ago, the NCFA have put together a 13-point recovery plan in order to make sure the arts not only survive, but thrive over the coming months and years. Let's hear from Tom about this recovery plan, as well as the recently published programme for government. Hello, Tom. How are you keeping?
I'm well, thank you. It was a big week last week, so it's slightly calmer. I think getting to draw a breath and spend some time on things that aren't NCFA for the moment. But things are well. I think we're really encouraged by the news last week, and we have a lot more to do. Yes. But I think it's a good start.
Yeah, I was going to just say that it seems the NCFA's efforts have paid off already, as the Arts Council have received an additional €20 million for the government, and that was actually the first point on the recovery plan. Can you talk us through the reasoning behind that figure, and whether you see this as a victory, or is it just the first obstacle cleared?
Yeah, so the figure of 20 million came from the Arts Council surveying the sector. So that's an accurate picture of the actual losses to artists and arts workers and arts organisations in 2020 during the pandemic. So real losses so far, and then losses that are projected based on all the activities that have been cancelled. So it's really encouraging that the sector came together, and I speak for the steering committee of the NCFA, but also all of the artists and arts workers and arts organisations and allies around the country who took time to share materials on social media, to contact politicians, and to let them know that the arts matter, and that the arts is a sector with economic impact, which is crucial to our identity and our well-being. And it's really encouraging that that government listened and responded. It's a really encouraging sign of what can happen when the sector comes together and works together. But of course, it is only one of 13 points in the NCFA plan to government. And we understand that the next few points are being worked on, but that there are a lot more things to do so that the sector can not only survive, but as you said, thrive, and continue to make work and engage with the public in these changed times.
They recently published their draft programme for government, and how does that address the NCFA's 13-point plan? Where does it fall short, and where has it succeeded?
So I guess when we saw the programme for government initially, it seemed a little vague. It had, I guess, an aspiration to support the arts, which is good. But compared to other sectors where there were very clear timelines and sums of money indicated in terms of other sectors, I guess I think a lot of artists and arts workers and arts organisations were a little disappointed. But we're assured that it's actually the most detailed programme for government in terms of the arts to date, that usually the arts just warrant a line or two. There are things that I think, we hope will be answered. There's no mention of Culture Ireland, for example, in the programme for government. And, given the emphasis in the programme for government for Ireland's reputation abroad, it's vital that Culture Ireland is funded as part of that. And I guess,
yes.
When the new government is in place, if the new government comes together, and when there's a new Minister for Culture, I guess, what we're really looking for is a roadmap. We heard from the last government that they would double investment in the arts in 5 years. And we're behind on that. Obviously, the world has changed, but we want to see a roadmap from government for how investment in the arts will be maintained and increased. That's the crucial thing. And then I guess there are other things which are part of our 13-point plan around tax reform, reform of VAT on culture, tax incentives for investment, private investment or donations to the arts. Insurance really needs to be sorted out, and the culture is really suffering because of an insurance system that's not fit for purpose. There's much more to be done, and the Arts Council in their expert advisory group report last week, they indicated that €30 million would be necessary for next year to allow the recovery and stabilisation to continue. So all of those things are things that we need to hear soon from a new government once they're in place.
Absolutely. You just mentioned Culture 2025 there, Tom. Obviously, that was published in January before COVID-19, the pandemic, hit Ireland and the arts sector. Do you feel that now that policy, we have to go back to the drawing board a bit on that and obviously reassess what Culture 2025 needs to be changed?
The answer in terms of Culture 2025, we don't really know what's happening with that. I think it's important that the incoming government has a strong cultural policy. And, two of the three parties committed to doubling investment in the arts before the election. So, we hope that despite the changed times that they will try and stick to that. And to I think to look at things like Dr. Gabriel Scally's end note in the Arts Council's report, where he talked about the intrinsic value of the arts and the value of the arts in terms of well-being, in terms of the economic impact of the arts, and the fact that there is a sector with tens and thousands of workers who are workers and who will contribute to the rebuilding of the country. So, we need I hope that many of the initiatives in Culture 2025, in terms of the capital investment, in terms of the commitment to doubling funding that we've heard from the various parties, will continue. And of course, things may need to change based on the changed reality. But the investment in culture is very small in the broader scheme of things.
Absolutely.
And we hope and it's really important that that's maintained.
Yes, absolutely. You're right there. And as you mentioned in your last interview with Stage Door, there were many workers who actually fell through the gaps of both the COVID-19 payments and the Arts Council bursaries. Tom, what, in your opinion, needs to be done by the government and arts organisations to assure that these workers who are so crucial to the arts sector are looked after and can continue to grow and develop their skills?
I mean, what's crucial is that the two, social protection schemes, the pandemic employment payment, which is for individual workers, and the COVID wage subsidy scheme, which is for organisations, need to be maintained until the arts sector can be back to full capacity. It's not enough to say, we're letting the theatres open in June or July, because actually it's not going to be possible for things to get back to full capacity. Essentially, a whole year of artistic work has, up to, while it's great to see that the Fringe and the Dublin Theatre Festival will, do a reduced programme, events all the way through to Wexford Festival Opera in November have cancelled the bulk of their activity and the bulk of their revenue generating activity. Yeah. The investment in the Arts Council will allow the Arts Council to roll out a range of other supports in terms of bursaries and professional development opportunities for people to upskill or reskill, so that the sector can be ready for this changed reality. So I think that's vital, and I know that's being worked on, so I hope we'll have an answer to that soon. And similarly, it's also vital that art centres and venues are safe to work in terms of welcoming in audiences, and also for the artists and the staff to create the work. So, we need capital investment for art centres and other venues to become COVID ready in terms of the various physical things that need to be done to the buildings. So, those two things from government, and then the Arts Council rolling out the schemes that they now have the money to do, are the next most urgent things on the agenda.
With a shift in government position imminent, what would you like to see from the new Minister for Culture, assuming this point is achieved and they can concentrate solely on the arts as opposed to dividing it between the Gaeltacht and heritage as has been done before?
We'll see how the department is divided up. We're hearing of various possibilities, like the arts might end up in with sport or tourism, which, while it would be good to have a dedicated minister, it might also not be a terrible idea to have a minister in a strong, well-funded department, representing other sectors. It might increase the status of the department. Who knows? I guess we'll know soon. But I think what's crucial is that from government is that the state agencies that are there to support and invest in culture, the Arts Council for the work that happens here in Ireland, and Culture Ireland for the work that happens abroad, are left to do what they do. It's vital that any increased investment goes into the Arts Council and Culture Ireland rather than into other initiatives where that the department is setting up, with restrictive criteria or with specific agendas behind them. Artists and arts workers and arts organisations are very industrious, and they're making work that responds, directly to what's going on. So let them do that, and invest in the Arts Council and Culture Ireland, who are there to support this work, and and make any increased investment as broadly accessible as possible, without targeting it in specific areas, so that the sector can draw on this investment as they need it.
Yes, absolutely. I suppose there has been in the past a lot of red tape when you are applying for funding, and certain angles that artists have to take in order to put on work. So I think that's a smart deduction there.
There's a welcome commitment in the Expert Advisory Group report that the Arts Council might look to support people who might not previously have received Arts Council funding because of the needs of the sector right now. I hope that will continue, but also that particularly in terms of strategic funding and Arts Centre funding and the various funding schemes for next year, that it can be as user-friendly and as streamlined as possible, so that people don't have to do all of that work again and again and again and again.
Yes, absolutely. That's fantastic. Thank you. So Tom, just about yourself now, what about your own work? What's next for you?
I'm working on a project in the summer with Dublin Youth Theatre, which was going to be a show in a theatre, but we've decided to make online. So that will be coming down the tracks in the next couple of months. And then there are some things which have been postponed, and but there's a lot of things in planning and development, particularly for the second half of next year, where I hope that we've adjusted to. I'm not sure about this term, the new normal. I don't think the old normal was ideal. What we need is a better normal, so that by the time we get to this time next year, we'll have a clearer sense of what the better normal will be. So then there are some theatre projects and opera projects, some new plays and new operas coming down the tracks. I'm also thinking about actually going back to college for a year to take advantage of this interval, to kind of do something that I haven't had the chance to do in almost 20 years. So if that happens, I'll be able to let people know about it. But I hope it's a good opportunity to take stock a little bit. I sort of feel sometimes when I've been walking around, I kind of felt a little bit like I did 20 years ago, where kind of I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen, and was kind of broke and apprehensive, but also that that there were all kinds of possibilities. And I think that going forward, we can find new ways of doing what we do and find new things to do, which could be some of the positive things that come out of these strange days. That a better normal in terms of like the world that we're in and the sector that we're in, and also our individual practices as artists and arts workers. I'm apprehensive, but look forward to all the things that I hope will happen.
Well, that sounds very exciting, Tom. And to be honest with you, I think you'll have to coin that expression, the better normal, because it's wonderfully catchy, and I hope it takes off. And I hope you're right. I hope we do have a better normal. I think the arts, really has, really proved itself, the arts sector at the moment, and how hard it has been fighting for justice. And you are a big part of that, you and the NCFA. So thank you very much for your work on that front. And we look forward to talking to you again about your work.
Yeah, thanks so much. And thanks also for all of your support in terms of the campaign and getting the word out. And, the more people that are talking about the arts, people who work in the arts, but also people who appreciate the arts and who know how valuable they are, the more of a chance we have to ensure that the sector gets the investment that it needs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tom. That was the wonderful Tom Creed there. And of course, this interview was edited for time, but you can catch a longer version of the interview on our YouTube channel in the next couple of days. So stay tuned. Thank you so much to Tom Creed for taking the time to speak with us and for his support of the show. As always, we'll provide links to the NCFA's website as well as the programme for government in the description box after our show. Over to you, Amy.
next week, Kelly will be hosting Stage Door Live, same time, same place. And I will be back in 2 weeks' time.
That's right. I've got some big shoes to fill.
You will be great. Thank you very much, Kelly. Thanks.
Thanks a million.
Now, our next guest is Fiona Keller. Fiona is a stage manager with extensive credits, working with companies including United Fall, This Is Pot Baby, Anu, Dead Centre, The Gate and The Abbey. Recently, she facilitated a COVID-19 live forum hosted by AIST, specifically for stage managers, aiming to discuss relevant topics, express concerns, share ideas, and together create informed suggestions in relation to COVID-19 guidelines. Welcome to the show, Fiona.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
How are you? Good.
Good.
Thanks for coming on. Good. So my first question, we were just talking about NCFA and the big win with the increased funding, and so many people are delighted and relieved, but a lot of arts workers fear that they won't see that much of that money. How are you feeling in response to the announcement?
Yeah, I think I was really happy when the announcement was made, just the fact that we were being given some support and we were being viewed as an industry like everybody else that has suffered through COVID. As to how that's going to be divided and what effect that'll have for freelancers like myself, I'm very unsure about. But I think anything that we get so far is something to be happy about, but there's a lot more work to do.
Yeah. And do you think that public perception of the sector is changing?
I think kind of the work that, like the videos that EPIC have been releasing, and I think the kind of conversation that happened in and around the arts and normal people, I think that's helping to change the perception. But I do think that there's still a lot more to do. I think it's quite interesting. Tom said that there's a possibility we could be put in with the tourism industry if we shared a minister with them. And I actually think that that could be really beneficial because we hugely contribute to the tourism industry. We're like quoted as one of the main reasons that people come to Ireland. So, you know, we put loads of money back into that side of the industry. So hopefully maybe that might stand to us as opposed to having a junior minister role or a non-existent minister role.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I think awareness is changing.
Yeah. And you facilitated a Zoom forum for stage managers with AIST to discuss kind of what the future of socially distanced rehearsal rooms might look like. Could you tell us a little bit about that and what some of the challenges are?
I suppose as it was a lot of freelancers were at it, so I suppose one of the main issues that we kind of feel would have been that there was an assumption we'd be the COVID compliance officers, and I think that realistically, I think if we've learned anything through COVID, it's that we all have to take responsibility for ourselves. So I think that has to transfer into your workplace, you know, the way you manage yourself in a supermarket, the way you look after yourself is really important. But also, you know, the concept of getting your stage managers and production managers on independent productions in earlier in order to be able to talk about what the rehearsal room looks like and how it's going to be divided up, and limiting how the time people spend in the rehearsal room is done. That takes work, and sometimes the stage manager doesn't even know where they're rehearsing until the day before rehearsals. So you can't plan ahead. You can't make those decisions. You're landing in at the same time as the cast and all of the creatives, and then having to work through all of those issues as they can be sometimes. So I think a lot of that's really important now, and like that's best practice. I mean, ideally, that's how we should be working anyway. So hopefully, if anything comes out of this, it will be that we do have a bit more of a communication and understanding pre-production and also post-production about, how things worked. It's going to have to be a very open dialogue as we start going back into rehearsal rooms. Some things will work, some things won't, but we need to be able to share that information and so that we can all learn, because we're not all going to go back together. Yeah, some of us will start going back, others mightn't go back until December, but everything we learn between now and December is going to be really beneficial to everybody in every part of what we do.
Yeah, totally. And so as we look forward into this new, hopefully better normal that will emerge after COVID,
fingers crossed.
Back on the industry, fingers crossed, yeah. When you look back on the industry that we had pre-COVID, do you think it was sustainable?
No.
No.
I think that we as an industry, look, there's no money in our industry, so that's one of the main issues, and hopefully with what happens in the future, that's one of the things we can really fight for. But I think it's a young man's game. It's a lot easier to work in the arts when you're not earning a huge amount. But I've been doing this for 10 years, and there's no pay increase. I don't have more. It's not a stable industry. I don't feel safe in my job role. It's continuously. It's like, I don't need to be earning 80 grand a year. I'm probably never going to earn that. But I do think knowing that I can afford a mortgage, that I can afford to go on maternity leave if I wanted to, that doesn't currently exist in our workplace. And I think that that's something that, you see a lot of people get kind of pushed out in their mid-30s, 40s, 50s, if they can't figure out how to segue into a slightly different role. I mean, a lot of it's manual labor, so you can't lift things for 50 years of your life. So I think that, no, it wasn't 100% sustainable, but I think that whatever practices we now start putting into place I don't think that anything that we put in place in the next couple of months is only for COVID. I think everything that we put into place now will hopefully create a better and more sustainable work industry. But also, the concept of COVID being once off isn't real. This could happen again. It's happened in Asia before. So we need to ensure that the next time that something like this happens, we've created a workspace that we don't need to close for 3 months. They didn't close for 3 months in Asia. They've adapted. Yeah. So we need to do the same. Hopefully.
And to pick up on that, hopefully. To pick up on something you kind of touched on there, you said, this is a young man's game, and you also kind of mentioned maternity leave. How do you feel the role of female arts workers is perceived? Do you think there is any difference or any discrimination, or was there any pushback as a woman in the kind of behind the scenes? Not for the companies that I work with, but then I have worked in the independent sector, which is quite a lot of the time run by female directors, female choreographers, for me anyway. So I've never felt that, but I do know that other stage managers have. Definitely a lot during the Wake of the Feminists. There was a lot of conversation about those types of issues, and obviously, I was getting. That's a couple of years ago now. So as I'm in that age group where a lot of my friends are having kids, it's something that you're looking around and you're going, I don't actually know a huge amount of production people who have kids, not women, and are still working, or, they've had to take a good chunk out and come back. So I don't know. It's a difficult industry. It's the nature of freelancing though, unfortunately, as well. There's no safety net for us. As we've very clearly seen over the last couple of months, there is no safety net. So hopefully we can figure out a way that's something that we really need to work for. Particularly for the people starting out now, it's kind of like when I started out just after the financial crash. So a lot of people left the sector at that point, and then people like me got jobs that maybe we weren't necessarily
ready for, and didn't necessarily train under those people who had a wealth of experience. And I don't think that that's a good thing. I think it's good that, you get to work with people who've more experience than you and learn from that. Because all of that's beneficial, as is being really young and going out on your first tour with a group of really young. All of you are new and all of you are learning. There's value in both of those things. So, yeah, lots of food for thought.
Interesting. And do you think that there's a need for stronger representation, such as like a unionizing of the arts sector for arts workers?
Yeah, I do. I definitely think that we need a unionized voice. But I think what's interesting is that you see all of these different facets starting to come together. And I know AIST isn't a union, EPIC aren't a union, and we have equity, but at the moment equity is predominantly for actors. And if there is going to be a union, I think it needs to be a union that looks after all arts workers. So, equity doesn't look after backstage. It doesn't look after technicians, but it does look after stage managers. But I need to be in a union that's looking after both. Like, I have a foot in both sides. Yeah, but I have a lot in common with the techs as much as I do with the actors. So having a large collective that looked after all of us as workers, I think would be hugely beneficial.
Yeah, that universally understands the demands of all involved.
Totally.
In the creative.
And likewise, the more of us that are involved, like all of the different facets of our industry, when we join our voices together, there's a huge proportion of us, and there's way more strength in those type of numbers than by fractioning it off into actors over here, directors over here, techies here, stage management somewhere in the middle. I think the more we can solidify all of these people together, like what EPIC are doing now, even give us the night, have been on like theatre Zooms, all of the live entertainment sector, if we can consolidate all of those people together, that's a really interesting, hugely eclectic group of people from all walks of life. And that's the sort of union I would join. Definitely.
That's exciting. Yeah. Amazing. So thank you so much for coming on for that chat. It was lovely to talk to you.
Thank you.
Hopefully we do all join our voices together. Thanks so much for coming on. Good night.
Thanks a million. Bye.
Bye. Now sharing her art in isolation with us is Emma O'Grady. Emma is a Laois-born, Galway-based theatre artist, writer, actor and production manager who has worked extensively in Ireland with Macness, Fit Up Theatre Festival and Asylum Productions. Let's see what Emma has been up to.
My name is Emma O'Grady. I am from County Laois, but I lived in Galway for a long time. Theatre artist, I'm an actor, I'm a writer, and I'm also a technician and a production manager. In 2017 I produced my first play, What Good Is Looking Well When You're Rotten on the Inside, which was based on tapes that my grandfather recorded in the last month of his life. And I'm interested in documentary style theatre, shows that are about real life, real stories, true events. Production wise, before the lockdown I was working on a whole lot of Macness shows as production manager. So when COVID-19 happened, I found it very, very hard to do anything creative for the first couple of weeks, and I was really feeling very overwhelmed by people producing stuff online, and so I just kind of blocked all of that out and just kind of didn't work on anything creative. And then and I was making a joke with my friend via text or on WhatsApp. when she asked what my news was, and I just said, "Oh, my news is I got up, I brushed my teeth, I had a cup of tea, I went back to bed, like some of these kind of mundane things." And then the next day she asked me what my news was, and she said, "Give me your news for tomorrow, before big break," because we were having this joke that our news is something that I used to do in primary school. I think a lot of people used to do, and I think it was a way for the teacher in the morning to get all the news from the kids, always screaming and saying, "Oh, I got a new tractor, and my aunt is coming from England, and I'm getting new runners on Saturday." So it was a way for her to to put all the news together, and she used to write down on the blackboard, and then we'd all copy it down. So then I just did one, in the style of, and I have them here behind me, in the style of how I would have done when I was that age, all through senior infants first class. And I just thought it was kind of funny, so I drew a little picture as well, and shared it online. And then I thought, oh, that might be a nice little simple kind of creative thing to do for the duration of however this thing was going to last, however long this thing was going to last. That's how our news started. And then other friends of mine have picked it up and have started to do their own, and there's all different styles that people are using, which is great. I find it really therapeutic to do it, actually, because some days I don't do anything, and I feel like I don't do anything, and then when I sit down to do the news, I realise that it's actually commemorating the little mundane things, and I realise there's always news, there's always something, even if it's just that I do nothing. I kind of like it's become a kind of a discipline now, practice. I try and do it before 12 o'clock every day, but I don't always achieve that, but that's okay as well. And it's also really nice, like Michael Murphy said once, to try and do creative activities that you're not supposed to be good at. So I did art in school, but I would never consider myself good at drawing. I like the freedom that getting to draw things gives me, because I'm not supposed to be good at it. It's not that I'm not making theatre, I'm not acting, I'm not kind of challenging myself in the practice I'm supposed to be good at, so it's just fun, it's just back to kind of being a kid and just having fun. My practice has changed because of the lockdown in all the areas that I work. So obviously production-wise, that's just been wiped out. So other than kind of having conversations with companies and artists that I would normally work with as a production manager, just trying to maybe figure things out, and other than kind of doing all the Zoom meetings and just being involved in the kind of health and safety conversations, that's just kind of gone. So what it has done for me is opened up all this time, which I'm so grateful for. I've never been more creative in my life. I'm working on loads of different projects with loads of different collaborators. I'm never going to be able to make anything during this time, making something, but it's given me all the research time that I need. The nature of my pre-planning phase, where I do all my reading and my writing and my research, and just having exciting kind of art conversations with other collaborators about, we can do this, we can do that. That hasn't changed, which is brilliant. And actually there's more of it. And it's given me more of a focus as well, that I had been a bit out of balance in the last few years, doing way more tech stuff than I was doing acting or writing or any other creative stuff. So we're addressing that balance now, I feel. What has inspired me lately is nature. I just moved out to the countryside in February. I was very, very lucky to move when I did. I've been 16 years living in Galway City. So I'm really enjoying having that immediate access to nature and go for walks and just the trees and the birds and just appreciating all of that. I'm not a great reader, but I've been reading a lot of nature books as well actually. I am obsessed with country music, so I have been listening to a lot of country music and I've been watching a lot of country music documentaries and listening to country music podcasts, so I'm a bit obsessed with country at the moment. And what else has been inspiring me? I'm doing the Artist Way as well, which I just find amazing. I'm really enjoying that, and then just having brilliant conversations with other artists and theatre makers and theatre workers, and just really enjoying having those chats, really meaningful chats with friends, I suppose. The things I need as an artist as the sector moves forward are the same that I needed before the pandemic, which is time, money and space. Time, money and space, yeah. And also, as an artist, I need to be trusted. I'm trusted an awful lot more as a production manager than I am when I'm an artist. And I think we should give artists their dues and include them in all levels of decision making within organisations and within projects, because artists are brilliant.
Thanks so much, Emma. We do think you're brilliant. Emma will be developing her show Pure Misery as part of Branner's Tiny Shows Weekend Residencies 2020 in August and September. In the meantime, we're going to keep enjoying her news. Our final guest this evening is Eamonn Fox, a freelance production manager, event controller, plying his trade in the theatre, arts, television and entertainment world. He has worked for Galway International Arts Festival, Dublin Theatre Festival, St Patrick's Festival, the Volvo Ocean Race 2009/2012, a Nation's Voice 2016, and extensively with Landmark Productions, Druid Theatre Company, Irish National Opera, MCD and Shinawil. Eamonn was working as event controller for Galway City of Culture 2020, just before the lockdown hit. Welcome to the show, Eamonn. Hello.
Thanks very much.
How are you this evening?
It's great to be here. I'm good. Nervous, but good. I'm not
Good.
used to being this
Nervous?
side of the camera or visible.
Don't be nervous.
My life is behind it, not in front of it.
So I'll fire in with the first question before you can get any more nervous. When you started working, what part did planning ahead play in your choice of what gigs you took and what jobs you kind of sought out or pushed for? Did you have a plan?
None.
No plan?
No, I've never really had a long-term plan. I enjoy what I do. I do a lot of everything. Somebody said to me, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "I do what the phone call asks. If it suits me, if I'm interested and if I'm able to do it, and if it'll pay me some money that'll keep me alive and living." So that I don't have a long-year plan. I have a degree in physics that should have been a 3-year degree. It took me 5 years. The reason it took 5 years is because I joined the Drama Society and I sort of diverged a little from physics right through my college career. And I have worked since then in drama and theatre and entertainment. I did get my degree. I do use physics in the practical implications of it, or the sort of sideways looking at it. But it was a lot of my time in college that did it.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of my time. Sorry. Go on, yeah.
No, you go on.
As I said, I spend a lot of my time playing Tetris. Be it in trucks, be it in theatres, being it on tour, being it trying to figure stuff out, how to get X to Y, how to get all around in various stages of places, how to set something up, how to move it around. And now with COVID, it's how to get back to work, how to get people to see shows, how to be safe in it, and all of that. So it's sort of a slight twist on what I've been doing all my life.
Yeah, problem solving. So
Yeah.
you haven't had a plan per se. Do you feel like a plan serves people in this industry that kind of work as freelancers, or do you think that industry even allows people to have a plan if they wanted to?
You do have, like, I started out life as a lighting technician because I'm into physics and I'm into that side of stuff, and I started to work while in college. But I moved on from that because in this industry you get very pigeonholed. So I was a lighting technician, so people would only ring me up when they thought there was a lighting job going. And way back in 1998, I put up my hand for the Galway Arts Festival to venue manage the Big Top. Because nobody would have. So in one sense, it was slightly planned, but it was said I would like to be front of house. And they gave me that job. The following year, I production managed a show for Mockness, and the following year, I became production manager of the Galway Arts Festival. And I developed out of that into other things. Like, my planning went as far as getting my degree, working with Druid at the same time, working for a company called Blacklight in Galway, and working my way up. So that I work in an industry where I have learned on the job. My qualifications are not really related to the industry. 7 years later, I went back to GMIT to do a degree course in video production. And Lelia Julian was asking me, why do you want to do this? You're working in the industry, you're working in the theatre. What do you want to do? They eventually let me back in and do it. But again, it was about time. So I spent a couple of years working, not making a whole lot of money, and probably to get into the video and the TV side was to earn more money to make a living. That I love theatre, I will always do it, I will do it for little or no money, but we all need to make a living. So that while I'm from Galway, I have spent more time in Galway in the last 14 weeks because I'm in lockdown than I have in the previous year, because the work isn't in Galway to sustain a living for me, in that my work was always all over the country or somewhere else, or Dublin or abroad. And my work isn't just in theatre, that I branch out into rock and roll. So that why my CV reads the way it does is to keep earning. And as a freelancer, it's to keep going, and it's you run 4 jobs at once. They're not all on the same day, and often actually I do have 2 or 3 gigs on the same day, but it's to try and manage it to keep going.
And
so that in one sense, yeah, go on.
No, you go on. In one sense, what?
In one sense, I think it's sort of answering your question, that the COVID time has given me time to sort of relax and chill out. And
that was
and
exactly the question I was going to ask, was how is your COVID
somebody
time
rang
been?
me
Has
up
it
after.
given
Yeah, somebody rang me up after 5 weeks, and I said to Pete, I've switched off. I steam cleaned my house. I painted it. I'm a very experienced painter. It doesn't mean I'm a very good painter, but I have been painting and doing other stuff and taking a little bit of time out. I was supposed to be on holidays and other stuff, and to do that. And now I'm beginning to get back into it. I've kept abreast of what's going on and looked at it, but know that there was no future for the last 14 weeks. Nothing was going to happen. I was not going to go back to work. I'm on, thankfully, the COVID 350, which is sustaining me just about, if you know what I mean. But at least it's something that's coming in every week, and I can afford to do that. I'm also very good at working when I work, and I work very hard, but I'm also very good at doing nothing. And if I could sustain this lifestyle and keep it going, I'd be very, very happy to.
Do you think the sector, live events, TV and theatre, do you think it is sustainable for the freelancers and the arts workers involved?
It's sustainable in a way that we all love it, and we all work in it, and we all make it work because we love doing it. I have worked for 25 years freelance in various projects. I recently, a couple of years ago, left Druid to take a full-time job with a TV company, and I survived 9 months in an office. And then I said, thank you very much. I like projects. And I go back out into freelance work. So it does it because, and as I've said, it's never been about the money. I need to get paid, and I need to earn a living, and I need to live. But I do it because I enjoy it. And I think everybody who works, especially in theatre, does it because they enjoy it. And at no point in the history of it, in my history of 32 years, were people overly paid for it. in terms of, and more so, whatever about technicians and us backstage that we got a living. Lots of artists and the front of house, the front stage side of it, didn't earn a living. Like way back, I was commenting with somebody more recently, who I was talking to, who way back in 1989, I went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and I had worked for the Galway Arts Festival, so I had some money. But the other 39 people in the theatre troupe were on the dole. I don't know how many of those are still in the industry. That as Kelly said earlier, and as someone as Fiona said, it's a young person's game. You can survive it for so long, but then you want the house, you want the stability, you want to know that you have an income coming in. And in more recent years, unless you're in the established houses, you can do that. But I don't know how sustainable it is, and not in the current situation where you can't put audiences into theatres in sufficient numbers to warrant the paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah, and in the previous interview, we mentioned the recession as well. Do you think there are similarities between what's happening now for the industry and what happened during the recession?
No, in that, and I spoke to somebody else in the events industry yesterday looking for about something. He said he has a commercial industry in terms of the events industry. And he said the problem with his kids who are beginning to take over the business is they don't know the recession. Because in the last recession, in terms of, I didn't get quiet between theatre, television and rock and roll. There was no real recession because people were entertained. People could go out, some of the corporate world and a lot of that disappeared. But in terms of entertainment, I didn't stop. This time, everything stopped. There is no, and every country stopped. So you couldn't, in the past, during the recession, you could say, oh, I'll go to America, or I'll go on cruise liners, or I'll go do something else, I'll go out to Dubai, or I'll go somewhere else and work for 3 or 4 months and tide myself over. In this thing, everything absolutely stopped. And from what Sophie and Liam were saying and the others were saying, it's how long we can sustain this stoppage. In that I'm currently on the COVID, so that I don't have to go looking, but it would reach a point where I would go looking for something else. Because in terms of looking at stuff coming back, that I spent a lot of my summer not doodling and drawing and doing other stuff and trying to work out stuff that may never happen. And as I said to somebody, once one of these happens, you'll pay me. But I have no problem trying to work stuff out and see if we can come up with a solution, or we can come up with a way that we can get a sustainable crowd to either a concert or a theatre show or something, that we can put it back on and get the show back on the road.
Yeah. And we're just going to take a second now to share a short film that you made. And it is titled A Sideways Look at Arts and Events, COVID-19 and Grass Cutting. So we're going to show that to our viewers now. So, yeah, lovely film. Thank you very much for letting us share it on the show today. Another question for you. In an ideal world where the support is given to the sector to get over this immediate hurdle and also beyond, what else would you like to see from live events, technical theatre, arts workers and the wider industry?
I'd like to see, like, in an ideal world, but because a lot of what kept people going in the pandemic was the results of live theatre and television, and events industry, and to see it moving forward is the sustainability of it, is that we would keep with it, that we would provide it for all for as free as possible. That I've done a lot of events over my years that are family orientated. And the difference between family orientated and commercial events is huge in terms of the audience profile and the experience and the buy-in. So that working with Galway 2020 was great in that sense, because they're public events. They're for the public, and I'd like to see more of those in that sense, that are open to the public. And one of the things over the course of the years, as you said, between the recession and the other, was the amount of people who turn up for anything that's free. From 2008 to 2012, and to be able to put that on and to generate that lots of it would be more open to more people.
Yeah.
Which is about as far as I would think in that, as I've said before, I don't think too far ahead in what I'm doing. I think about a year and a half ahead. In that sense, but it's to have. So that it would be to have a sustainable industry that's there and available for the public, in a way that can be appreciated by more and more people, and then that they would sort of donate and appreciate the fact that it's not for free, in that we need to live, and everybody needs to earn a living, and needs to be paid for it. So that in that sense to donate or to stump up, but again the sort of non-commercial stuff, I think, works incredibly well.
Yeah, incredibly well. So thank you so much for coming on for a chat. It was really
thank you for having me
to interview you on Stage Door Live. Thanks so much, and have a nice evening. Bye, Eamonn.
Thank you.
As I said at the beginning of tonight's show, it's been a very busy few weeks in the news. So many voices are being heard, championing the need for support for the entire sector, from arts workers and artists to the buildings themselves. We're seeing the real consequences of what happens when the support doesn't materialise, or when officials refuse to listen. In places like Theatre Royal Plymouth, where 100 jobs are now at risk as a direct result of the pandemic, that's only one example of institutions facing massive redundancies in the wake of this ongoing public health crisis. We have so much to be proud of here in Ireland, as our sector stands together to show the government exactly how critical our work is to the fabric of Irish culture. But the government is listening. The first of the NCFA's 13-point plan has been achieved, and that was something that we could all celebrate. But there are 12 more points to go, and still so much work to be done. Important conversations are happening around the world as we navigate our recovery from the coronavirus crisis in more supportive, equitable and inclusive ways. This month we're focusing our episode on access, inclusion and diversity within the Irish arts sector, and we know that the road to true equity and equality is long and it's ever-changing. We also know that if any community can be inclusive and diverse, it is those of us in the arts. We come together time after time to support each other, to lift each other up, and to celebrate the diversity that exists within our sector. We must, however, continue to learn how best to support marginalised communities and how to be better allies to those who need us most. Because theatre should represent our world, a world that is diverse, intersectional, and ripe for positive change. With all the news this month, it may seem like we have pushed an important celebration aside. In fact, Tonight's poem was ready to go weeks ago, but we needed to take a second to listen to those who really needed us right now. We definitely have not forgotten that June is Pride Month, so as Pride Month comes to an end, we want to say to our viewers, we see you and we celebrate you. Your stories are important, and we stand with the LGBTQ+ community. We stand with makers of colour, we stand with makers of all abilities. No matter who you are, your story matters. We are not trying to check boxes. We believe that this should be our way of life. As theatre makers, as observers of the world, and as creators, people do listen to artists. Not just the government, but the public. We entertain, we help guide the way through pandemics, we educate, and we talk about the issues that must be talked about every day. And that is our way of life. If you're watching on Facebook, hit that follow button, give us a like. In fact, take a moment to share this live feed with your friends and followers. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and click that bell to keep us updated, to keep yourselves updated on our new and exclusive content. Hop on over to our new Patreon page, where you can support us with a one-time or monthly donation, patreon.com/theatremakerie. Your support will help us grow and keep the conversation going. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at theatremaker.ie. Catch our weekly blogs on our website, as well as links to our previous episodes and more. Watch this space, there are more exciting things on the way. Thank you for your support from all of our team at theatremaker.ie. And before we go, we'd also like to express our gratitude to Grace Holton. She is a third-year stage management and technical theatre student at the Lear Academy, who kindly shared preliminary findings she's collected via an online survey for her dissertation, focusing on overwork culture behind the scenes in Irish theatre. Her generosity is sincerely appreciated. Thank you, Grace. And here to leave us with a reading of Fern Hill by Dylan Thomas is the wonderful Irish scholar and civil rights activist, the father of the house, Senator David Norris. Good night, everyone. We'll see you next week at 7 p.m. with Kelly.
Well, hello, everybody. This is a happy time because it's just on the 5th anniversary of the same-sex marriage referendum. And what a wonderful thing it was that so many young people, by no means all of them gay, came back from all over the world, not just from the United Kingdom, but from America, Canada, and even Australia. It gave us such a wonderful feeling to be admitted finally into the full Irish family. And here's my poem. It's Fern Hill by Dylan Thomas. Now as I was young and easy under the apple boughs, about the lilting house and happy as the grass was green, the night above the dingle starry, time let me hail and climb golden in the heydays of his eyes, and honoured among wagons I was prince of the apple towns, and once below a time I lordly had the trees and leaves trail with daisies and barley down the rivers of the windfall light. And as I was green and carefree, famous among the barns about the happy yard, and singing as the farm was home, in the sun that is young once only, time let me play and be golden in the mercy of his means. And green and golden I was huntsman and herdsman, the calves sang to my horn, the foxes on the hills barked clear and cold, and the Sabbath rang slowly in the pebbles of the holy streams. All the sun long it was running, it was lovely, the hayfields high as the house, the tunes from the chimneys, it was air and playing, lovely and watery, and fire green as grass, and nightly under the simple stars as I rode to sleep, the owls were bearing the farm away. All the moon long I heard, blessed among stables, the nightjars flying with the ricks, and the horses flashing into the dark. And then to awake, and the farm, like a wanderer white with the dew, come back, the cock on his shoulder. It was all shining, it was Adam and maiden. The sky gathered again, and the sun grew round that very day. So it must have been, after the birth of the simple light, in the first spinning place, the spellbound horses walking warm out of the whinnying green stable onto the fields of praise. And honoured among foxes and pheasants by the gay house, under the new-made clouds, and happy as the heart was long, in the sun born over and over, I ran my heedless ways. My wishes raced through the house-high hay, and nothing I cared at my sky-blue trades, that time allows in all his tuneful turning, so few and such morning songs, before the children green and golden follow him out of grace. Nothing I cared in the lamb-white days, that time would take me up to the swallow-thronged loft by the shadow of my hand, in the moon that is always rising, now that riding to sleep I should hear him fly with the high fields, and wake to the farm forever fled from the childless land. Oh, as I was young and easy in the mercy of his means, time held me green and dying, though I sang in my chains like the sea.